Welcome back. Well, it's our weekly group session with three of the most experienced political minds in the business. It's time for the War Room. Let the battle begin. Jenny Byrne is a veteran of many conservative war rooms who quarterbacked the last Harper campaign. Anne McGrath, equally experienced on the front lines of the NDP campaigns. Carleen Verheyen is inside the Liberal War Room and in charge of harassing journalists that don't get their facts right, and she calls me all the time. All right, let's talk about photo ops. We're going to run some visuals of these. We have Justin Trudeau climbing Grouse Mountain in an ad. We have Justin Trudeau in a canoe. We have Justin Trudeau in a boxing ring. We've got politicians always hanging around in daycares or coffee shops with kids. So let's find out what photo ops go too far and what ones work. And I'm going to start with you. Which ones of these do you like, and which ones do you think are over the top?
So I actually think that the Trudeau campaign has had some pretty good visuals and the photo ops are working quite well for them. He photographs really well. They've got good settings. I think it's not too bad. I think you can overdo it. And they're kind of walking that line right now, I would say. I think that the boxing thing today, people might start to kind of get a little bit, tired of this, right?
It was 7 years ago since Patrick Brazeau.
Yeah, exactly. I did like the Atwater Market thing that Mr. Singh did today. I think it's good to see leaders out with people, talking to people, and I think those are excellent visuals. So you have to have visuals in a campaign, right? I mean, like up till now, very few people have even been paying attention to this campaign. So what you have to do on every day is try and find a way to get your leader on the news in a good visual.
I guess so, because we keep running these pictures, so I guess it's working as advertised. Jenny, what do you think? I mean, Harper wasn't the greatest photo op king on the planet. What works and what doesn't in your view for Trudeau in particular?
We had some great photo ops and we spent a lot of time working on them, but to your point, it's something that we politicos may spend a lot of time talking about, but I'm not sure the average person does. I agree with Anne. I think the Liberal campaign has had some really good visuals. It's somewhat like a Roots commercial. So we know that the Prime Minister we know that he's fit. He can run up Grouse Mountain. He can canoe. We're reminded today that he can box, even has a cool tattoo on his arm. But I also agree with Anne that I think they're getting very close to the line of going a bit over the top.
Oh, all right. See, you really don't have to defend your position. They say he's doing just fine.
Well, and I don't want Anne and I to be falling all over ourselves, complimenting each other, but I actually was thinking, for over the last week, that the NDP has done a really good job of creating some of their visuals as well and showing their leader.
This is the war room. This isn't like he's breaking out all over. Come on.
No, but I think that every political strategist is looking for ways to show their candidate in humanizing formats, because Canadians spend, 90% of the times that Canadians see these leaders, they're in a suit and tie and they're behind a podium. And as people are starting to plug in more to the election, you want to be able to showcase them in more human ways. I think for Justin Trudeau, a lot of these photo ops are things that he's doing anyway. Probably this morning, preparing for the TVA debate this evening, boxing is something that he does to focus and relax before something that's really important. And so it was just a way of showing Canadians and showing the media what he was doing on a given day.
I think you were telling me actually the media demanded entrance to that because they had nothing else to put up.
We try and give them access to just as much stuff as we can.
Isn't that nice of you? My goodness. All right. I guarantee you the niceties aren't going to continue now. I want to talk about foreign aid. Andrew Scheer put out foreign aid yesterday, a 25% cut. And just about every group, every agency that's ever dealt with foreign affairs or humanitarian aid said that his rationale was wrong. And by that I mean he was suggesting it was being given to countries that have higher incomes and G7 countries, when in reality these agencies operate within the country. So I guess I'll start with you, Jenny. Was that something that should have been more closely vetted by the campaign? Because clearly he didn't quite make a convincing case to a lot of people doing reality checks.
Well, he didn't make, I guess, a convincing case to people that are relying on government money. But I think it's a very popular and very assailable position. We're talking about countries, not just Iran and North Korea that are receiving funding, but countries like Brazil and Italy. As well, and including organizations like UNRWA, who the Liberal government has given $110 million to since they were elected in 2015. This was, of course, an agency that is associated with Hamas that promotes the hatred of Israel and the Jewish state. So I think that this position is very popular among Canadians, and I think that the $1.5 billion that is going to be saved is going to be going to programs that are going to help Canadians across the country.
Okay, I mean, Carleen, it sounds jarring when you say we're giving money to Iran, but then it's for money for monitoring their nuclear disarmament thing. So it's really not going to any nefarious purpose.
That's right, and I think it was certainly a bit of a misplay by the Conservative campaign. I think that what perhaps they may have underestimated is just how strongly Canadians attach their position in the world, and in an increasingly turbulent world, Canada's place in that world. And you're right, there has been a lot of misinformation that I think some have been trying to pivot to around where this money is going. Iran funding going to non-proliferation work. Some of the funding that went to Russia was actually to extract LGBTQ2 Chechnyans from Chechnya, where they were being persecuted, facing death. So this is a lot of really important work. I think a lot of Canadians are waiting to hear something from Andrew Scheer that will give them a reason to vote Conservative this election. And I think this announcement just really came out of left field.
And what did you make of it?
I think that the depth of the cuts is quite alarming. It will hurt some of the most vulnerable and poor people in the world. I don't think it aligns with what most Canadians feel proud about our country. And I'm hoping that it will backfire, because I think it looks kind of mean, actually, more than anything, and certainly takes us even further away from the goal that has been long agreed to, which is the 0.7% of GDP for foreign assistance. So I don't think it aligns very well at all with Canadian values, and I think it looks very mean.
I'm just curious, Jenny, if I may, on this one, is it something that was turning up on doorsteps? People felt foreign aid should be cut, or is this just a way you got to find revenue to pay for some of your promises, and this looks like a low-hanging fruit?
Well, I think this position is very popular among Canadian voters. I think that Canadians are very generous. We're a very generous country. We believe that foreign aid should go to the most vulnerable and poor in the world, and everyone agrees with that. That is why a reallocation of funds, so countries like North Korea and China and Russia don't receive funding, is something that is very popular among Canadians in terms of the redistribution of aid money around the world.
Okay, I must say I've seen a lot of polls. I haven't seen that issue raised on one of them. But I want to switch gears, because we do have the first debate tonight. And one of the great mysteries is what goes on in war rooms when these debates are going on, because they're important to get messages out and highlight successes and the other person's failures. I was going to ask each of you, because you all know war rooms quite intimately, what goes on when a debate's happening? And I'll start with you, Anne. I mean, what do you anticipate is going to be going on in the NDP one tonight?
Well, I mean, in the war room itself, people will be monitoring the debate itself. They'll definitely be monitoring the social media chatter, and they will be pushing back against anything negative around our campaign, and will be pushing the positive things that Jagmeet Singh says on the debate stage tonight. So it's a very, very busy night. They'll also be putting out reality checks. They'll be doing fact checking. It's busy. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, a lot of, you know, it can be a bit noisy sometimes, and every now and then someone has to kind of go find a spot where they can actually think for a minute or two. And you have to react quickly, but not react so quickly that you either overreach or make a mistake.
Yeah, and Jenny, you've quarterbacked these before. What happens in the Conservatives?
Well, it's pretty much what Anne said. It's going to be a very loud area where people are watching it. I think that what all Canadians are going to be watching tonight, of course, is this is the first debate with the Prime Minister and he is the most fluent of all the leaders that are going to be participating in this debate. He's extremely experienced, the most experienced one on the stage tonight. So it's really going to be his debate to lose tonight. Expectations, I think, are very high for him. So I think that's what the Conservatives, as well as Canadians and Quebecers, are going to be looking at.
Well, he sure got the big target on his forehead. Carleen, you're in this war room, I assume. What's your assignment tonight?
Well, war rooms debates are always really exciting for war rooms and for campaigns across the country. And we can't forget those campaigns. Every party's got close to or 338 candidates running in ridings all across the country. And this is a really exciting moment for them because it's a chance to kind of, see how your leader stacks up against the others, to really talk about the platform that you've presented. I think this one's going to be a bit interesting because the Conservative campaign hasn't actually put out a fully costed platform going into the debate, which is a bold choice. And I'll be watching to see if that's something that ends up being a vulnerability for Andrew Scheer. But I think Justin Trudeau's excited to be back home in Quebec. This is his home turf. He's the only federal leader outside of the Bloc Québécois from Quebec, and it's just a chance to reconnect with a lot of those viewers.
Very quickly, I'm literally in the last minute. I want to get your quick thoughts. Jenny, Bill 21, controversial bill, big in Quebec, popular in Quebec. Does Andrew Scheer embrace it or try and barge pole away from it as much as possible?
Well, I think that Andrew has been clear, which is very consistent with most of the other leaders on the stage, that this matter is before the courts, and that he would be letting that play out.
Okay, and one thing that Jill Doucette brought up, and I don't know if you detected it, he seems to think that Jagmeet Singh is going a little more pointed at this bill. He sort of suggests that that's now a line of demarcation that he's erasing. What do you think?
Well, I do think that the fact that Mr. Singh had a bit of an encounter today at the Atwater Market about someone saying that he should take or cut his turban off underlines his role in these debates. And I think it underlines that as the only kind of racialized leader that he experiences, like many millions of Canadians, he experiences these different levels of racism pretty well every single day. And so he has a very particular perspective on how bad that bill is and why it should be opposed.
So does Trudeau keep saying it's counterproductive to talk about this?
Well, I mean, for Liberals, it's very easy for Liberals to take a stand on this and to say this is absolutely not something that we don't believe in. I think some other parties have a bit of a challenge in terms of they have bases of voters that they're trying to coalesce that may have differing views on Bill 21. The Liberal Party, and our big tent is pretty clear on that. But I think to Anne's point, the really unfortunate and unacceptable incident that the NDP leader experienced today at the Atwater Market really does show how poisonous and how toxic these kinds of conversations can be, and they're perpetuated by bills like this.
Okay, we're going to talk about that with the journalists a bit later. Thank you all. Interesting debate. We will see you next Wednesday after the really big debates on Monday, or the English debate on Monday. Anyway, all right, thanks again. We'll see you next week.